Blood trickled down Officer Mike Harrison's face as the emergency room doors burst open. His vital signs were crashing. The medical team rushed to stabilize him, but his condition deteriorated with each passing second. Through the chaos of beeping monitors and urgent voices, no one noticed Zeus, his German Shepherd K9 partner, analyzing every movement, every machine. Then it happened. As Harrison's heart rate plummeted, Zeus broke free from the officer holding his leash. Before anyone could react, he pressed his nose against Harrison's chest and began pawing at a specific spot. The head surgeon froze, watching the dog's precise movements. "Stop everything," she commanded. "This dog, he's telling us something." What happened next would change emergency medicine forever. Zeus had detected something that even million-dollar machines had missed. Mike Harrison's path to law enforcement began in a small town in Oregon. After serving 8 years in the military as a combat medic, he joined the Portland Police Department with a singular goal: to work in the K9 unit. His medical background and military experience made him an exceptional candidate, but the department needed more than just skills. They needed someone who understood that being a K9 handler wasn't a job, it was a calling. 3 years into his police career, Harrison got his chance. The department's K9 training program accepted him, and that's where he met Zeus. The German Shepherd had washed out of 2 other police departments. The trainers called him too sensitive, a criticism that made Harrison look closer at the dog others had written off. During training, Zeus showed unprecedented attention to human vital signs. While other dogs excelled at detecting drugs or tracking suspects, Zeus demonstrated an uncanny ability to detect subtle changes in human physiology. He'd stop training exercises if he sensed elevated heart rates in nearby officers. At first, the behavior frustrated the trainers, but Harrison saw something revolutionary. Harrison restructured Zeus's training to leverage this unique skill. They developed a system where Zeus would alert to physiological distress the same way other K9s indicated drug finds. The unconventional approach raised eyebrows, but the results were undeniable. Zeus and Harrison began locating missing persons faster than any other team. The dog could detect the specific stress signatures of people in distress. Their breakthrough case came 6 months into their partnership. During a search for an elderly man with dementia, Zeus led them past the designated search area to a drainage ditch. The man had fallen and was in the early stages of hypothermia. Zeus had detected his deteriorating condition from over 50 yards away, through dense brush. The save earned them department commendations, but more importantly, it validated Harrison's trust in his partner's unusual abilities. Over the next 4 years, Harrison and Zeus completed 236 successful missions. They located missing children, tracked fleeing suspects, and even discovered unconscious accident victims in dense forest areas. The medical community began studying Zeus's abilities. Researchers discovered he could detect impending medical emergencies before standard symptoms appeared. Harrison and Zeus started training other K9 teams, sharing their pioneering techniques for medical detection work. But it was their day-to-day bond that truly set them apart. Harrison lived alone, and Zeus became more than a partner. He was family. The dog stayed by Harrison's side through a difficult divorce, sleeping next to his bed during the darkest nights. Harrison swore Zeus could sense emotional pain as clearly as physical distress. Their connection went beyond handler and K9. They operated as a single unit, each anticipating the other's responses. This profound bond would be tested on a rainy Tuesday morning, when a routine patrol turned into a desperate fight for survival. The K9 training facility became their second home. While other handlers clocked out at sunset, Harrison spent extra hours working with Zeus, developing a sophisticated communication system. They mapped out different alert behaviors for various medical conditions: 1 paw scratch for elevated heart rates, 2 for respiratory distress, and a specific head tilt for neurological concerns. The other officers joked that Harrison was training a furry paramedic, not a police dog. They weren't entirely wrong. Their unconventional methods caught the attention of Dr. Sarah Chen, a veterinary behavioral specialist studying animal cognition. She documented Zeus's ability to detect biochemical changes in human bodies from significant distances. Her research revealed that Zeus could identify the specific scent signatures of cardiac distress, diabetic emergencies, and even early signs of seizures. The scientific community initially dismissed her findings as coincidental, but Zeus's track record became impossible to ignore. Harrison and Zeus's reputation spread beyond law enforcement. Local hospitals invited them to participate in emergency response training. Medical students watched in amazement as Zeus identified patients at risk of cardiac events before any symptoms appeared. The dog's accuracy rate exceeded 96%, outperforming several standard diagnostic tools. But success came with increased scrutiny. Some department officials worried that focusing on medical detection compromised Zeus's traditional police work. Harrison fought to maintain their unique approach, arguing that a K9's role shouldn't be limited by convention. He compiled years of data showing their track record in both traditional police work and medical assistance. The numbers spoke for themselves. Zeus had contributed to 157 arrests while saving 42 lives through medical intervention. Their methods transformed K9 training across the Pacific Northwest. Other departments began selecting dogs for medical detection abilities alongside traditional skills. Harrison developed a comprehensive training program, teaching handlers to recognize and nurture their K9's natural sensing abilities. What started as one officer's trust in his dog's unusual talents evolved into a specialized branch of police K9 work. Outside of work, Harrison and Zeus shared a quiet life in a small house near Forest Park. Their morning runs became legendary in the neighborhood. Zeus always ran on Harrison's left side, matching his pace perfectly. Local children would wait by their fences, hoping to catch a glimpse of the famous police dog. Harrison never minded the attention Zeus attracted. He understood that his partner was extraordinary. The bond between them transcended traditional handler-K9 relationships. Zeus seemed to anticipate Harrison's needs before he expressed them. During long stakeouts, the dog would gently nudge Harrison's hand exactly 5 minutes before his next required radio check-in. After particularly difficult shifts, Zeus would retrieve Harrison's stress ball without command, dropping it in his lap with knowing eyes. Their profound connection would face its ultimate test on a rainy Tuesday morning, when a routine patrol turned into a desperate fight for survival. The morning started like any other. Harrison and Zeus completed their pre-shift equipment check, a routine they'd performed thousands of times. Zeus's tail wagged as Harrison adjusted his tactical vest. The dog always seemed to perk up on rainy days. The dispatcher's voice crackled over the radio at 6:43 a.m. A silent alarm triggered at Mason Street Pharmacy, a location with 3 previous robberies that month. Harrison responded to the call, activating his lights but keeping the sirens off. Zeus's posture changed instantly, the playful morning energy replaced by focused alertness. As they approached the pharmacy's back entrance, Zeus's ears twitched. Harrison recognized the signal. His partner sensed someone's elevated heart rate nearby. The back door stood slightly ajar, rainwater pooling on the threshold. Harrison radioed dispatch requesting backup, then gave Zeus the command to scan the area. The dog's behavior shifted unexpectedly. Instead of tracking forward, Zeus pulled back, trying to position himself between Harrison and the door. In 7 years of partnership, Zeus had never refused a command. Before Harrison could process this unusual behavior, movement flashed in his peripheral vision. The suspect had concealed himself behind a dumpster, armed with a modified automatic weapon. Harrison barely had time to shout a warning to the approaching backup unit. The first shots shattered the pre-dawn silence. Harrison took cover, returning fire as Zeus launched into action. But this wasn't a normal engagement. Zeus bypassed his attack training, instead frantically trying to pull Harrison away from his position. Seconds later, a second suspect emerged from the pharmacy's roof, creating a deadly crossfire. Harrison felt the impact before he heard the shot. The round penetrated his vest at an angle, finding a gap in the protective plating. He maintained consciousness long enough to see Zeus neutralize the first shooter, clamping down on the suspect's weapon arm with calculated precision. The backup unit arrived as Harrison's vision began to fade, but Zeus's behavior had already shifted from apprehension to rescue mode. The dog's medical detection training took over. Zeus alternated between pressing his nose against Harrison's chest and pawing at his side, trying to communicate the location and nature of his partner's injuries to the responding officers. The K9 refused to leave Harrison's side, even as the EMTs arrived, his eyes tracking every movement of their hands. Officer Sarah Martinez, first on the backup team, later reported that Zeus's behavior guided the initial emergency response. The dog's intense focus on specific areas of Harrison's torso helped them identify wound sites through the blood-soaked uniform. When Harrison's blood pressure dropped during transport, Zeus became agitated exactly 30 seconds before the monitors registered the change. The emergency response team had worked with Zeus before, but never under these conditions. They witnessed firsthand why Harrison had invested so much time in medical detection training. Zeus's reactions provided early warnings for every change in Harrison's condition during the 8-minute transport to Portland General Hospital. The suspects' interrogations later revealed the full scope of their plan. The pharmacy robbery was merely a diversion for a larger operation. They'd chosen the location specifically because of Harrison's patrol patterns, hoping to eliminate the department's most effective K9 team. The second shooter had positioned himself based on detailed surveillance of police response protocols. What they hadn't counted on was Zeus's absolute dedication to his partner. The dog's refusal to follow standard engagement procedures, choosing instead to focus on protecting Harrison, disrupted their carefully planned ambush. Zeus had sensed the second shooter's presence early on, leading to his initial reluctance to approach the door. The incident sparked immediate changes in department policy. K9 handlers began incorporating medical detection into standard training protocols. Zeus's actions demonstrated that a police dog's ability to sense human distress could be as valuable as their capacity for pursuit and apprehension. As Harrison was rushed into emergency surgery, Zeus remained in the hospital, his behavior becoming increasingly specific and urgent. The medical staff would soon discover that the dog's agitation wasn't just loyalty. Zeus had detected a complication that would revolutionize emergency trauma response. The emergency department at Portland General had never dealt with a situation quite like this. Security protocols typically prevented animals from entering trauma rooms, but Zeus's reputation preceded him. Dr. Rebecca Chen, the lead trauma surgeon, had studied the papers published about his medical detection abilities. Her decision to allow him to stay would alter the course of emergency medicine. The initial assessment revealed the bullet had fragmented, complicating the surgery. Harrison's vitals stabilized temporarily, but Zeus's behavior suggested something the monitors hadn't caught yet. The dog kept circling back to a specific spot on Harrison's right side, far from the visible wound site. His pawing became more insistent, even as nurses tried to guide him away. Dr. Chen noticed that Zeus's alerts followed a pattern she'd seen in the published research. The dog's behavior matched documented cases where he'd detected internal bleeding before conventional symptoms appeared. But this was different, more urgent, more specific. When Harrison's blood pressure suddenly dropped, Zeus's agitation peaked. The surgical team rushed Harrison into emergency surgery, focusing on the obvious trauma site. Zeus became frantic, barking for the first time since entering the hospital. Dr. Chen made an unprecedented call. She ordered additional imaging of the area Zeus had been indicating. The scans revealed a slow arterial bleed masked by the more obvious injury. Without immediate intervention, it would have been fatal. Hospital staff witnessed Zeus's abilities evolve under pressure. The dog developed new alert behaviors specific to Harrison's changing condition. When post-surgical infection risk increased, Zeus would rest his head on Harrison's feet. When pain medication levels dropped, he'd whine softly and nose the IV stand. The medical team began documenting these patterns, realizing they were observing something revolutionary. Dr. Sarah Martinez, a visiting neurologist, noticed Zeus's particular attention to Harrison's brain activity patterns. The dog would become restless minutes before EEG readings showed potential complications. His accuracy rate surpassed the most sophisticated monitoring equipment available. Martinez initiated a formal study, tracking Zeus's reactions against machine readings. The hospital administration initially expressed concerns about liability. Having a dog in sterile environments challenged every protocol, but as Zeus continued predicting complications before they appeared on monitors, skepticism turned to interest. Department heads began visiting the trauma unit, watching Zeus work. The dog's presence was rewriting emergency room procedures in real time. Nurses developed a unique charting system for Zeus's alerts. They coded his different behaviors, tracking them against Harrison's vital signs and lab results. Patterns emerged showing the dog could detect subtle changes in body chemistry up to 15 minutes before they registered on standard equipment. This advance warning allowed the medical team to prevent complications rather than react to them. Zeus's influence extended beyond Harrison's care. Other patients in the trauma unit showed improved recovery rates simply from brief interactions with him. The dog would stop at certain rooms during his permitted walks, alerting staff to developing complications in other patients. In one case, he refused to leave the door of a recovering car accident victim. Staff discovered the patient was developing a pulmonary embolism that hadn't yet shown on standard tests. The most dramatic moment came during Harrison's second surgery. Zeus, watching through the observation window, suddenly began pawing at the glass. Inside the operating room, all monitors showed stable readings. Dr. Chen, remembering Zeus's previous accuracy, ordered an immediate blood gas analysis. The results revealed a developing acidosis that would have complicated the surgery if left undetected. As days turned into weeks, Zeus established himself as an unofficial member of the trauma team. Medical students started calling him Dr. Zeus, taking notes on his behavioral indicators. His presence challenged conventional wisdom about medical monitoring and forced the hospital to reconsider its approach to patient observation. Harrison's condition remained critical, but stable. Zeus's alerts became the early warning system that kept him alive through several near-fatal complications. The dog's accuracy rate surpassed 98%, detecting issues before they appeared on even the most sophisticated monitoring equipment. This unprecedented reliability led to a complete overhaul of the hospital's critical care monitoring protocols. On the 17th day of Harrison's hospitalization, Zeus's behavior shifted dramatically. The previous pattern of careful monitoring transformed into focused determination. During morning rounds, the dog repeatedly pressed his nose against Harrison's chest, then looked at the cardiac monitor with unusual intensity. Dr. Chen and her team had learned to trust these changes in Zeus's behavior. They ordered a comprehensive cardiac workup, despite Harrison's apparently stable condition. The initial tests showed nothing unusual, but Zeus's insistence continued. The dog refused food and water, maintaining his position by Harrison's bedside with unwavering focus. The breakthrough came at 3:47 a.m. Zeus suddenly leapt up, placing both paws on Harrison's bed rail, something he'd never done before. Within seconds, the cardiac monitors registered a dangerous arrhythmia. But thanks to Zeus's warning, the medical team was already in position. They stabilized Harrison within minutes, preventing what could have been a catastrophic cardiac event. This incident marked a turning point in Harrison's recovery. The arrhythmia had been masking a deeper issue, one that explained his slow recovery. Further testing revealed a rare complication from the initial trauma, treatable only if caught early. Zeus had detected it weeks before it became life-threatening. The hospital's cardiac unit launched a dedicated research program studying Zeus's detection methods. They discovered his sensitivity to heart rhythm changes exceeded their most advanced monitoring systems. Zeus could detect irregularities up to 4 minutes before they registered on hospital equipment. A lifetime in cardiac care. Harrison's vital signs improved dramatically following the corrective treatment. Zeus's behavior reflected this change, returning to his more relaxed monitoring pattern. The dog began spending short periods sleeping, something he hadn't done since Harrison's admission. The medical team recognized this as the most promising sign yet. Recovery accelerated after this breakthrough. Harrison regained consciousness for extended periods, and Zeus's alerts became less frequent but more specific. The dog developed a new behavior, gently nosing Harrison's hand before each improvement in his condition. Staff began calling these progress alerts, noting that they preceded measurable improvements in Harrison's vital signs. The impact of Zeus's contributions reached far beyond Harrison's case. The hospital board approved funding for a pilot program integrating animal detection into patient monitoring protocols. Zeus and Harrison's story had transformed from a medical anomaly into a model for innovative patient care. As Harrison's strength returned, Zeus's role evolved once again. The dog began assisting with physical therapy, providing balance support and motivation during Harrison's first attempts to walk. Recovery milestones that should have taken weeks were achieved in days, driven by the unique partnership between Handler and K9. 4 months after the shooting, Harrison walked out of Portland General Hospital under his own power, Zeus matching his pace perfectly. The medical staff lined the corridors, saying goodbye to the K9 who had revolutionized their approach to trauma care. But this wasn't the end of their story. It was just the beginning. Harrison's case triggered a nationwide review of K9 medical detection capabilities. Police departments across the country began incorporating medical alert training into their K9 programs. Zeus's documented success had opened doors that changed both emergency medicine and law enforcement. The Portland Police Department created a specialized K9 medical detection unit, with Harrison and Zeus leading the training program. Their near-tragic experience had evolved into a legacy that would save countless lives. Medical schools started offering rotations with K9 teams, learning to integrate animal detection capabilities into standard diagnostic protocols. But perhaps the most significant change happened in the research field. Dr. Chen's team isolated the specific biochemical markers Zeus had detected during Harrison's recovery. This breakthrough led to the development of new early warning systems for cardiac complications. Emergency rooms nationwide adopted these protocols, now known as the Zeus parameters. Harrison and Zeus still patrol the streets of Portland, but their role has expanded. They split their time between police work and hospital consultations, helping to train a new generation of medical detection dogs. Their story traveled far beyond Oregon, inspiring similar programs worldwide. The most remarkable statistic emerged 1 year after the shooting. K9 medical detection programs had reduced emergency response fatalities by 23% in participating departments. Zeus had transformed a near tragedy into a revolution in emergency care, proving that sometimes the best medical breakthroughs come with 4 legs and a tail.